This is the story of my own family's business. The story of a small restaurant situated in the heart of a small town, rebuilt from the literal ashes of one devastating fire, and operated as though every person who enters it is family. Much like making dough, running a restaurant requires patience, gentleness, and precision. It requires exactly the right balance of things in, with no guarantee of the desired product out. There are rises and falls, and sometimes you're forced to start over. No one knows that better than my Aunt Lisa, who has mastered these qualities in her craft and her profession.
As a little girl, I loved mixing things for my mother, like cake mix or scrambling eggs. So when I saw them making this big pond of flour and mixing it with eggs and water or whatever, I couldn't wait to get my hands in there, and I wanted to learn how to do it. So I did. I learned how to make homemade macaroni, pizza dough that I make every day. We come in every morning and we put the big board on the table, a 25-pound bag of flour, put it down, make a well, and then I start mixing, and I do it every day, sometimes 3 times a day here today. It's probably one of my favorite things to do is make the pizza dough.
Perhaps the restaurant's greatest accomplishment in its 65 years of existence is surviving a generation that nearly ended it. A generation that didn't want their progeny bound to someone else's dream, but rather free to pursue their own.
He said, no. You can't do it, it's too much. I would never want my kids to own a restaurant. Someday before I sell it, before he sells it, he's going to sell it. I'm going to put all...
Selling meant sparing the future from having to choose between family legacy and personal pursuit. Remember John at the bar in Billy Joel's song Piano Man? He was great at what he did, but he felt stuck. He aspired to be more than a bartender. John is the epitome of this choice and how it could ultimately play out if your heart isn't in it. But sometimes, to some people, there is no greater fulfillment than carrying on a tradition as special as this.
All I wanted to do ever since I was a little girl is to run the restaurant. You know, I used to come in and my 2 grandmothers used to be here, my 2 aunts, and my father bartending, and I just grew up in this whole atmosphere. It was like one big family, and I'm teaching my nieces and my daughters to carry on this tradition because it's so rare today.
What survived over the years is more important than a bar and a kitchen and some tables. It's a refuge. It's a home-cooked meal. It's an old friend that you can always count on.
We've had customers here and employees come back years later, coming back to say, looking for my mother and father, didn't know they passed, but then them telling me, you know, how wonderful they were, that they didn't have any home life, so they used to come here and my mother would give them anything they wanted to eat and a job, and just treated them like family.
I believe, much like my aunt believed, that this place is not a burden, but a rare gift. We don't often talk about it, but I think my family would agree that this restaurant has been worth all of the sacrifice that came with it over the years.
You know, it's like one big family. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and hopefully Francis and I keep making this bigger and bigger.